Yo, what's good, y'all, man? We got Food Theory, man, back again with a brand new video. We got Gaston stole all the eggs, Beauty and the Beast. You been watching Beauty and the Beast, man? Y'all go ahead, why you did it? You know what I'm saying? Hey, that's that. You know what I'm saying? That's that shit. You know that's that. You know that's that shit. Okay, but yeah, let's get it. Like it up, so let's get it.
When I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. Gaston's breakfast routine in Beauty and the Beast gives us one of the single most iconic Disney lyrics of all time. I mean, just listen to this. How could it not be iconic? Now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen eggs, so I'm roughly the size of a barge? Gaston, buddy, we need to talk about the benefits of a balanced breakfast. But here's the thing, not only are his morning gains giving him a cholesterol level that could kill a tank, his diet is also throwing the town around him into crisis. Don't believe me? It's a tale as old as time. Economic crash. Hello, Internet. Welcome to
Food Theory.
Food Theory, the show that never counts its chickens before they hatch. Today we're revisiting the Disney classic that just keeps on giving us film and food theories, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast was that shit. Back in the day, that was that shit. That was that shit. No cap, y'all. If y'all watch Beauty and the Beast, let me know comment below. No cap, let me know comment below. Y'all watch Beauty and the Beast, though.
Story that likely needs no introduction. Smart rural French girl wishes for more in her life, winds up in a cursed castle with talking toilets and an extra hairy prince, singing and Stockholm Syndrome ensue. But it's the drama going on outside of the Beast's castle that I want to focus on today. You see, Belle's constantly being pursued by the village hunk Gaston, a man who believes that a woman's place is cooking in the kitchen and not reading books. At this point, it's pretty clear who the bad guy's meant to be, and who says that movies weren't woke back in the 90s. Outside of that one character trait, though, when push comes to shove, Gaston's really not as bad as the movie makes him out to be. When he learns that Belle is trapped in a castle imprisoned by a giant hulking beast, he gathers up the villagers to... And can you blame him? His intended fiancée just got abducted by the giant honey badger that lives out in the woods on the outskirts of town. What other options are there? Sitting down and talking about your feelings? Anyway, I'm not here to be a Gaston apologist. Instead, I'm here to focus on the villainy that he presents to the village that he calls home. In his villain song, the self-titled Gaston, everyone sings in the bar about how great this guy is. And it's at this point that we get the rundown of his essential life stats, his spitting habits, and his breakfast routine. The whole 4 dozen and 5 dozen egg bit. Just let that statistic sink in for a minute.
4 dozen, 5 dozen eggs.
5 dozen eggs every...
Nah, that's a lot.
Every morning. That is 60 eggs a day. A whopping...
That's a lot.
21,900 eggs.
A lot of protein though, but hey, that's a lot though.
In a single year. For comparison, a typical person in the US has eaten around 288 eggs per year, meaning that Gaston is consuming nearly 100 times that amount. So with the current global egg shortage in headlines right now, I wanted to take a look into Gaston's incredible edible egg habits. Is it possible to consume that many eggs? How many chickens would this village need?
You can assume it on, but it's a lot of shit going on. Yeah.
In order to sustain Gaston's breakfast binges. And most importantly of all, what are the downstream ramifications of someone eating up both literally and figuratively the entire supply of this shelled staple? We've got ourselves one excellent episode, friends, so let's get to cracking, shall we? First, let's start off with an easy question. Is it possible to eat 60 eggs in a single day? Now, most online blogs will cite that the average adult human stomach can expand to hold at max 1 quart of food, or about 950 milliliters. I've checked the sources that these...
Damn. Shit, my shit be like... I'm full. Shit, I ate 2 bites, I'm... Hey. Yeah, if I ate 2 bites, Shit, I'm eating that bit later on. You feel me? Some people's stomach's different though. I ain't gonna lie, my stomach is, you know what I mean? It's fucked up, so... Yeah, type shit.
These blogs tend to cite though, and I don't really love the research that they've done. I much prefer this video right here from the absolute excellent channel Institute of Human Anatomy, where we actually see him testing out a normal human stomach. And at peak capacity, it...
That's how stomach be? Oh, that's how stomach, you know what I mean, you know. Damn.
Holds significantly less, a mere 600 milliliters or about 1.2 pints. Basically, the human stomach's the perfect size for a full Ben & Jerry's tub. It's like a match made in heaven. Now, a small egg holds about 1.5 fluid ounces or 44 milliliters. So if Gaston were to eat these raw, he'd be sitting at around 2,640 milliliters of fluid in there. 4 times what a stomach typically holds. By the 14th egg, he'd practically be at capacity, and he still has 46 to go. Gaston's stomach would likely burst. No.
Yeah, something like that.
Notice though that I said likely, because 60 eggs in a sitting has been done. In fact, 100 eggs in a single sitting's been done before. Back in 2013, world famous competitive eater Joey...
That's what I was saying, like a lot of people do food tests, and so... I mean, it depends on how your stomach is, though.
Chestnut set a new world record for egg eating by consuming, get this, 141 eggs.
He has broken the world record!
Even crazier, Joey did it in 8 minutes. So while every bone in my...
Damn, that motherfucker's a beast. He had that bitch. Damn.
My body wants to say that Gaston would be dead before the movie even begins. Maybe this barge of a man comes with an extra large fuel tank. Is that right terminology there? What do you call the gas tank of a barge? Large boat fuel tank. Oil tank. Yeah, that makes sense. It wasn't that far off. So let's just say that Gaston has himself an above average stomach. But if he could eat that many eggs, can we calculate the number of chickens required to fulfill Gaston's insatiable appetite? As we see in the movie, the chickens seem to roam freely around the village. So doing some quick research, a modern chicken in a backyard environment can lay 4 eggs a week on average, or about 208 eggs in a year. To supply Gaston with nearly 22,000 eggs in a single year, you're talking about 105 chickens performing at peak capacity. Simple, right? This is like the easiest food theory that I've done all year. Well, not so fast. As I've learned from a decade of doing these theories, it is never that easy. The egg production varies from breed to breed, so we need to know what type of chicken is laying these eggs in the first place. In other words, we need to figure out the geographic location for this poor provincial town. We know that this is France, we need to figure out the geographic location for this poor provincial town. We know that this is France based on the opening song.
Bonjour.
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 They make that one pretty darn obvious, but where in France specifically? Someone called the GeoGuessers. Although the village never gets itself an official name, the creative team has gone on record to say the design was inspired by 2 specific towns in the Alsace region of France. 2 specific towns whose names make me break out into a cold sweat. No way I'm gonna be able to pronounce these. I mean, the Australian Macas incident was bad enough. Oh, let's do our best. Okay, it's French, so you're gonna fuse some of these letters together, you're gonna align some of these other ones. Require and Ribeauvillé. Nailed it. Anyway, both Require and Ribeauvillé are in the northeastern
He did good, though. He did good.
region of France, so we can safely assume that that's roughly where we're talking about for Beauty and the Beast. That said, we're not done. Of course, it's not that easy. Different chickens started being farmed in this area of France at different times, meaning it's not just enough to know the location of the movie, we also need to know the time period. Luckily, there are a few things that give us a rough idea of when the movie takes place, and most of them come from the live-action remake. Hey, if they had to do it, at least there's a silver lining in there somewhere. In the remake, they added this completely unnecessary
I ain't seen it, but I heard about that remake. I ain't watched it, though.
Scene where Belle uses an enchanted book to travel to her old home in Paris. It's here that the Beast sees a doctor's mask and suspects that Belle's mother might have died from the plague.
What happened to your mother?
It was the one story Papa could never bring himself to tell. Any better than to ask.
The doctor's mask. Plague.
This is most likely referring to the Plague of Provence, which took place between 1720 and 1722. In this scene, we see Belle as a baby. Now, according to the animation supervisor for the original movie, Belle is in her 20s when the movie takes place. Therefore, the events of this film must happen sometime around 1740. This also lines up nicely with when the original fairy tale the movie's based on was published, 1740. We also know for a fact that the movie had to have happened before 1789. That marked the beginning of the French Revolution, a time when most of the French nobility had fled France in fear for their lives. But the final piece of evidence that really cements this as the mid-1700s is Cogsworth's tour of the castle. It's here that he draws Belle's attention to the ceiling as
this is yet another example of the late neoclassic Baroque period.
We hear it mentioned again in the Christmas special when the decorator Angelique calls the place
this Baroque atrocity.
Baroque architecture was characterized by its ornate detail, lots of rich, heavy designs with arcs and curves and marble. So him calling it a Baroque atrocity tells us that the castle has gone out of date. And wouldn't you know it, but the Baroque style lasted in Europe from the early 17th century and really started to fade in popularity by the 1750s, perfectly matching our rough estimate of 1740 as the date for this movie. Why were we talking about the history of European architecture again? Oh yeah, chickens, that's right. Lost track for a second there. This one's
Yeah, you talking about eggs and shit.
going in all different directions. So, knowing the history of Baroque
Nah, you were going different directions, but hey, it's your video, you know what I mean? We know what you doing type shit. Yeah.
architecture in the northeastern provinces of France is gonna help us narrow down our chicken breeds and egg production rates. How ridiculous is that? If this channel does not deserve a subscription from you, I don't know what does. Seriously, who else is going to such absurd lengths to get these answers? Although, they're answers that no one asked for in the first place, so I guess we only have ourselves to blame. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to see if there were any chickens that had a similar look to the design of the chickens that we see in the movie itself. See, right here in the opening song, we get these brownish red chickens. Those didn't exist in France during the 1740s. Most brown chickens, such as the Rhode Island red chicken and red leghorn, only came around in the 1800s and onwards, a whole century after the events of the movie. So now you can understand why it was so important for us to analyze the architecture of the castle. So since the chickens that we see in the movie are just clearly meant to be stand-in generic chickens and not historically accurate, I narrowed our field down to 3 ancient French breeds of egg-laying chicken that predate the mid-18th century. That gave me the Houdin, the Bresse Galloise, and the La Flèche. These
I never heard them. I never heard 3 of them motherfuckers. I ain't gonna lie. Did I heard them 3 chickens, man? Let me know in the comments below.
chickens lay an average of 3 eggs per week between March and October. But yet again, it's not as simple as that. You see, egg-laying stats like these are based on modern data with a modern understanding of how chickens produce eggs. Nowadays, farmers understand that a chicken's egg cycle relies on sunlight. A chicken needs approximately 14 hours of daylight to stimulate the pituitary gland so its ovaries release an egg. This means that in the winter, when the sun isn't out for as long, chickens produce fewer eggs. Modern farmers can simulate sunlight in order for their chickens to meet that 14-hour requirement, but in the 18th century, they didn't have that level of sophistication. This tells us that annual total egg production back then would have been less. If we look at a single chicken, it would lay 3 eggs a week from March to October, thereby giving us 96 eggs. Then, if we look at how daylight reduces to 8 hours in the other months, egg production slows down to 2 eggs per week, or 32 eggs between November and February. In short, one chicken in this provincial town is laying 128 eggs per year. And this is all assuming that the chickens are in their prime egg-laying years and that no one's getting eaten by those evil wolves that just so happen to live on the outskirts of town. Those things are legitimately the scariest part of this movie. If Gaston really wants a beast to kill, he should just go after those guys. So with all this information gathered, the grand total of chickens needed to satisfy Gaston's protein fix is...
When the world gave them setbacks, science gave them bounce backs. And when your vet delivered life-altering news, science delivered life-changing nutrition. Hill's Prescription Diet. Science did that.
195 chickens. 195. Seems like a lot for a town that actively calls itself little. We can quickly count from some of the shots in the first song that this is a town of about 100 people, which means that there are almost 2 chickens for every person in the village. To put that in perspective, a village of this size should only need 50 chickens to meet its needs, but here the ratio is actually flipped. Instead of 1 chicken for every 2 people, there are 2 chickens for every 1 person, and all of those chickens are working overtime to sustain just 1 dude. It doesn't even cover the needs of the rest of the village. And you see, that last point there is kind of a big deal. In the opening song, we hear a random line in the lyrics where this woman is screaming that she needs 6 eggs.
I need 6 eggs!
On my first watch, I thought that this was because she was holding so many children, but I see now that it's actually far worse than that. She's screaming that she needs 6 eggs because there just aren't any eggs available.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
available. Gaston is eating the entire supply, and that's trickling down to all the other peasants in the village. What are you gonna do if there's an egg shortage? Well, we see it right now in the grocery stores. You sell your eggs at a higher price. It's called the law of supply and demand. If the supply goes down but the demand remains the same, that price is gonna rise. This then creates a domino effect for the rest of the town. We see the baker with his tray like always. He's gonna need eggs in order to bake the food that he sells. If eggs have suddenly become more expensive for him, he's just gonna adjust his prices to cover his costs, and so on for everyone else in the town, regardless of whatever services they provide, like the butcher or the barber. They'll all have to raise their prices in order to buy the more expensive food. And if you think I'm overthinking this, if you think that I'm completely wrong to be talking about the economic ramifications of one
No, I'm done with some of y'all.
dude over-consuming eggs in a small provincial French town in a Disney movie, think again. Right here in the opening song, there's another random lyric thrown in.
That's too expensive.
Clearly, there are some financial issues that are happening in this town, and now we know exactly who's to blame. Gaston's egg-centric diet has created an economic crisis. He alone hero, but feeding this local jock is costing them all big time. The villagers desperately need Gaston to either cut down on his egg consumption or just get out of the picture entirely.
Damn.
Huh, I guess some things just work out on their own. But hey, you know what food isn't gonna be
Is this a food theory?
causing an economic crisis in your local village? Our sponsor for today's episode, HelloFresh.
I ain't gonna lie, man, boy.
Honestly, HelloFresh is a win across the board. So if it works for me and my family on our crazy schedule, I know that it can also work for you. So again, go to HelloFresh.com and use the code FOODTheory65,
Yeah, you're bad though.
FOODTHEORY65 to get that offer of 65% off plus free shipping. Because your health and your time are worth it. But hey, that's just a theory. A
Food theory.
food theory. Bon appetit.
Yeah, hey, W video, man. Banger video. Like it up, sub, hit the bell, man. And yeah, alright. Peace.